Hey all, we're back. Today's video is a bit of an update. See how the fleet is going. A bit of a talk about the XB. I have put a grand total of what are we at? 369 kilometers on this car, and I've done a few things since I got it on the road. Talk through it a bit. The car runs absolutely mint. I'm not actually miles off getting ready for its first oil change, but the stupid thing is how many people, when it comes to building engines, have different views on things. Because some people say change your oil after you run it in, some people say 500 k's, some say 1,000, some say 800, some say 1,500. I'm like, how many kilometers are you supposed to put it on it before you dump the first lot of oil? It's just really confusing. I think I'm going to dump it at 500 k's because it is starting to go from green to black, which tells me that it's nearly done what it's got to do. I popped the covers off the other day, checked the rockers, see if I'd lost a lobe on the cam, because I know from past experience that usually when a cam rounds out a lobe, shall I say, the lifters fall down, the push rod loses, it just drops down and they will just fall out. So nothing like that's happened, so safe to say the motor is probably going to be good for a long time. Since getting it though, instead of getting on the road, I've changed the harmonic balancer, because this one that was on this engine, which was, I thought at the time was still good, turned out to be not good. Should have had a closer look at it, but that was the one. So, win some, lose some, but I put another one on from another engine. I still don't have any money, but yeah, we've done that. I added, believe it or not, I'd actually forgot to earth the engine to the body. So like the engine and the battery and all that's all hooked up, and the car, everything was working, but I didn't have the engine and battery earthed to the body. I don't know how I managed to forget that one, but I guess because everything was working I didn't take note of it. But then obviously the first night I was driving it, I noticed, and it was weird because there is nothing electrical hooked up to that T-bar shifter, but I was getting sparks through the actual the selector, so I could see electrical sparks coming through. I'm like, how the hell is that happening? There's nothing electrical hooked to it. And as soon as I put that extra, well, not extra, as soon as I put in this earth lead to run from the battery to the body, stopped it immediately. The other thing to note is you'd think with a 5-core radiator it wouldn't have any issues, but it was actually getting hot and over pressurizing, and I decided that it'd be a good idea. I couldn't work it out because it was just over pressurizing the living snot out of it. And after much research and speculation, I decided that the radiator cap that came with the radiator was garbage. So I stole the radiator off that original radiator, stuck it on here, and suddenly the temperature was way down. Everything was how you would expect it to be with a huge honking radiator like this in it. So this one, with the cap from the country we shall not speak of, this thing was sitting at half and a little bit above on the temperature gauge the first day or so I was driving it. It was concerning because I would have thought that this radiator should have had it sitting almost in cold all the time, and after changing the cap it did. So, and what would happen is it would build up pressure, and even when it was bone cold, you take it off, it would just explode water out of it, which is why there's water stains everywhere now. Fantastic. So once I changed the cap, that didn't happen ever again, and the temperature sits icy cold. So if you get one of these radiators, throw the cap out immediately. And then I was speaking to another mechanic mate, and he said, yeah, the radiators are good, the caps are garbage. So you get one, put it over your right shoulder immediately. It's had a wheel alignment. I had the wheel weights changed because when I had these tyres and I cleaned up the rims and had the tyres put on. It was done by a different tyre joint than the one I normally like, and they put the stick-on wheel weights on the inside of the wheel. And first drive around the street, I could hear this. After about 2 kilometres, it stopped. So I took the wheel off and had a look, and the brake caliper had made short work of the wheel weights. So I took it to the wheel shop, to the local joint around here called the Tread Shed, which are awesome. Very small tyre joint, but very knowledgeable. The guy is a Ford fan, which is fantastic. And for $100, 4 wheels balanced and a wheel alignment, which you can't go too wrong, I reckon. Baby seat is in, and they are massive. I did end up putting a brand new center seat belt in to hold the baby seat in, as I wasn't. Well, you know, when you have kids, you'll understand how important they actually are to you. So she got a brand spanking new seat belt. I'll put new ones all around, I reckon. And when I do the bucket seat conversion, I will put retractable ones in the front. And those of you who are of ample size, like myself, you'll find that the rear seat belts are not long enough, or only just long enough to go around our ample frames. So I've still got to get clips and put the trim on and a few things. But and then I also took out the helper springs that were in the back. They were giving me the shits, because there's another clamp that goes at the back that holds it up against the leaf spring, and they were both missing on both sides. I don't know why they were missing, but first trip around the road, all you hear is the leaf spring being slapped by the helper spring, and it gave me the shits. So right, Obi-Wan Kenobi came to my hope and blasted them off in no time at all. Aside from that, I'll cover the bases, get the radiator cap, throw it out, harmonic balancer, needs an oil change. Yeah, I think my transmission, I suspect it's going to have to get rebuilt. It shifts, but it tends to flare a little bit between second and third. It just goes, ooh. And I think my tail shaft's a little out of balance, but aside from that, because it's not a big thing, and I think the diff could do with it being replaced because it's got a fair bit of slop in it. But as a car, though, it is going well, really quite well. I love that steering wheel. It's just so good to steer with. I will eventually, when I have money again, buy the rubber insert and the new doodad and hoo-has for it. I've got my interior light working. It's fun. I will put carpet in it eventually, and the bucket seats, and I've got the console bracket. I made a console bracket, and I've got the floor brace to go in, so I need to just buy the 2 underfloor braces, where on this car have been completely destroyed. I replaced those, put them in, put the bucket seat brace in, and I'll put the bucket seats in and put carpet in and do all the good stuff then. But I'm just trying my hardest to earn some money. But and the keen observers who know XBs know that this is a Falcon 500. It shouldn't have window chrome. But my mate I got the car off, he bought a whole bunch of Fairmont chrome and stuck them on, and I was like, they don't look offensive, I'll leave them on. I will eventually start doing up the body on this car. I know some people love patina, but I don't mind them looking pretty as well. I've just stepped on something quite pointy. It appears to have exited my foot. Yeah, so that's a bit of a wrap-up of this. I think it's, considering I did all of this in 3 months, so I bought the car, and within the following 3 months, got an engine trans, rebuilt the engine, did the whole conversion, painted some of the engine bay, rebuilt all the suspension, put the wheels and tyres on it, and got it all up to spec to drive on the road. And it cruises beautifully. Once the wheel line was done, holy moly. That was just straight line stuff, this thing, all the way down the road. So, there is something about if you get one of these, and it's, I sort of think people think projects along the lines of they just start ripping them apart and, you know, just getting into them and trying to strip them all down to shells, and then they lose motivation because they realise how big a task it is. When superficially, if your car kind of looks similar to this, put it back together and drive the damn thing. You'll have way more enjoyment. And I always think you should do things in stages. So if this is mine, obviously, so probably the next thing I'll do is I'll probably take the door off one weekend and take it to the workshop and just do it in my spare time and pull the dents out, straighten it all up, grind off all the surface rust, pop the mirror off briefly, repaint the door, bring it back, bolt it back on, have a perfectly straight door, and just panel by panel work my way around. The roof has had something on it, which that's going to suck epically to try and fix. And I was having thoughts about potentially selling the XY Ute, as that's a pretty monumental project on its own right, and I've already got another one here that, believe it or not, is actually higher on the list than the XY. It's an EJ, this one. This is pulled out of a yard in South Australia up in Nuriupta. Old Dudley Hines. Anybody in South Australia knows of this wrecking yard, but it is a monstrous yard of just wrecked cars that are from the 70s and 80s, 70s, 60s and 70s. Just incredible amount. There's be 50 or 60 EJEHs out there. Most of them are toasted, but lots of bits left on them. So yeah, I got this EJ as nearly complete, but no driveline in it, and it was $600. And it was only a couple of years ago. The owner of the yard is like 1,000 years old, and I think he's finally got to the point where he's going to actually part with stuff, because I've been going there for like 15 years, and there is less and less cars there every time I look. Not loads left, you know, you still go down there and there's probably still 300 cars there, but you do occasionally see a spot where a car was. I grabbed this one because it had a perfect boot floor in it, because it had its boot lid shut for 30 odd years, whereas they all have rusted out floors in that yard. It's because the vinyl floors just trap moisture. So I'm actually thinking about selling the XY Ute. I know a couple of people might get a bit heartbroken about that, but I've got this and I've got this, and I really want to do the EJ next. So that might break a few hearts, but I'm thinking about parting with the XY potentially. I know it's quite a doable project, and you can buy so much stuff for them, but this is further up on the pecking order, and yeah, I haven't done it yet, but it's been brewing in my mind. If somebody was super keen for it, I'd probably I'd prefer to probably sell it to somebody who was dying for an old Falcon project or something, and I'd probably do them a pretty good deal on it. But yeah, I think the XY might go to the wayside, because I only bought the XY because I couldn't get an XA or XB. When I've been hunting for an XA XB for 3 years, I reckon, and this was the first one that was even worth even thinking about buying. And I still had to do a ton of work to this, but at least it's at the point now it's quite enjoyable and drivable. Yeah, I do have, I'll open up this. So this is my brother's Landau. He lives in Sydney. This is sneak peek next week, Friday next week. This car is going back to the workshop. It's getting a colour change, believe it or not, even after going to all the effort to make this car beautiful. And I warned my brother, I said, are you sure you want polar white? Because polar white is a yucky colour. He goes, yep. And there, after seeing it, and he's got himself a new Ranger Raptor, he's decided he wants this the same colour. So yeah. So the motor's coming out. We're going to do up the engine bay. I'm going to do a full rebuild on this, same as what we did on this. So we'll get to do a 351, because this car is a matching 351 FMX 9-inch car. And this, you would have seen in my earlier videos, me working on this car, because I've been working on this car on and off for about 4 years. But I got it I got the body done, and it's been in here for months now. Months and months and months. And now it's going for a colour change. I even painted it too, so that's off the gun, no polish. Not bad. That came out. This is before the workshop ended up getting grubby to the point where this was painted very early on when we got the workshop. The workshop was super clean, and now the workshop's really filthy. So, yes. The other engine is this one. I have this one in my possession. This is supposed to be a 351, according to my brother. But I said to him, okay, why is it wearing 302 heads? That just makes me ask more questions. But he assures me that he had the sump off and saw a 4MAB crank in it. So, there is a chance that it might actually have a 351 crank and rods in it. And it's supposed to be a good engine. But it's also been sitting in this shed for 4 years as well. So I'm going to eventually put that in the XB, but I want to put a manual behind it when I eventually get manual gear, when I can ever find this stuff for sale. So I want to eventually have that XB sedan as a 351 4-speed car. So this is the engine that'll go in it eventually. Wish I knew about that before I built the other one, but anyway, can't win everything. So yeah, this is the Landau. The other, so I wish I'd done one of those things where you could snap your fingers and it's like, and done. So this is effectively the same as the one that's in the workshop currently that's going to go away. We got a fair way into it. Oh, that's my console for the XB too. So it's become a little bit of a dumping ground, but you know, you get that on big jobs. We started getting it back together, and then he's changed his mind. But this car was chronic, really, really rusty. So that's kind of where we're at the moment with everything. Yeah, it's just a bit of an odd one. This video may not be super entertaining for most people, but because we're not doing anything, it's a bit of a what the latest on everything is. So some people might enjoy the ramblings, some might not. Doesn't bother me. I still like doing videos and telling you what I get up to. So yeah, this is a big project. This one, as you can see, it's got no floors. I already done one floor, but of course I did that about 2 years ago, shortly after getting it, and I left that over there, and it's been exposed to the rain. And I could do the rust in this car in a couple of weeks, I reckon. These are not that bad. I just need to get some doors for this. Actually, doors have been proving to be very difficult to acquire for this. And as most people who know old Holdens will know, that this car's got its wheel arches, it's got its parcel shelf around the rear window. Got that boot lid for $50. It's actually an EJ Premier boot lid because that's where your Premier badge goes and your Hydromatic badge. So it's got a rust-free boot lid. I've got a rust-free bonnet hanging at the shed. But yeah, there's some of the XY parts. And I have a nice set of rust-free Y frames to go on the front of the EJ, which are slowly succumbing to the weather. So I want to get this cracking because this is a fair high priority car. It was originally Nepean Grey with an Atherton Ivory roof, which is the same exact combination as my first car. My very first car that I pulled out of a wrecking yard when I was 16 was a grey EJ with a white roof, red interior and manual. And this car is identical in every way, shape and form. Except the other one was $300 and it was a lot more complete. And I'd started bare metaling and then I was putting some Epitech on it, and that's been exposed to the weather for probably 2 years, and only just around some of the edges is it starting to go rusty. So that's pretty good stuff. If you're going to put something and then expose it to the weather, put that on it first. So that's where I'm at. If anybody has any real interest in the XY, please sing out. Contact me through the Graham's Restorations Facebook page. That's probably the quickest way. So yeah, that's the latest on the cars, the fleet, as you might say it. And I'll leave it there, and stay tuned for next week when we have a bit of a change up in the workshop where this is coming in. And we get to do another engine build. That'll be fun. Can't wait for that one. Alright, stay tuned. Keep subscribing, keep liking, keep sharing.